Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right, it's Friday. Yeah, all day till tomorrow. And it's the 28th of August, and it's 11:11 p.m. Eastern Time. Gee, what is the significance of that? Absolutely nothing. Let's get into the news. This is video number 2, and I'm just going to pick up from where I left off in the last video, and we're just going to continue on with news items. Some may be a day or so old, so I hope you but there's stuff that's not, you probably won't have heard anyway, so it won't matter. Well, that's what I'm hoping anyway. Okay, let's take a look at this, and I'm going to have to be a little bit careful in this because it could get the video banned. Breaking May 31st toxicology report revealed GF died of fentanyl overdose. Why did prosecution wait 3 months to release report to public? Well, why do you think? I think that's self-answering question, very self-evident. I believe they wanted to have the riots and unrest. They wanted it to seem like it was a wrongful death, but when the camera from the police was released, and with the toxicology report, well, it looks a little different in the light of day, doesn't it? Nothing could have prepared America for the violence that spread across our nation as a result of the death of GF after Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was caught on video kneeling on Floyd's neck during an arrest. Floyd's death spurred incredible violence, including the death and serious injuries of innocent law enforcement officers and U.S. Secret Service agents, rioting, looting, arson, and the destruction of cities across America. The violence that's taken place in the aftermath of GF's death has divided our nation and shone a light on the dark underbelly of the Democrat Party and the media that supports them, because we know that mainstream media is more or less the propaganda arm of the Democrats. Excuse me. All right, so let's go down. Western Journal body camera footage leaked earlier this month showed Floyd struggling several minutes after officers attempted to arrest him. One officer asked Floyd, "Are you on something right now?" Well, apparently he was. "Because you're acting really erratic," another said. Floyd continually protested that he was claustrophobic and could not breathe when they tried to put him in a squad car. "I can't breathe," he said several times, appearing to have an anxiety attack. Officers Derek Chauvin and Tu Thao then arrived on the scene. Chauvin places his knee over Floyd's neck, and previous video footage shows it remained there for nearly 9 minutes. Floyd continued to protest. He could not breathe. On May 29th, 2020, Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was charged with third-degree murder. Minnesota's radical Democrat AG Keith Ellison later upped Chauvin's charge to second-degree murder. Former Minneapolis police officers Thomas Lane and J. Alexander Coyne, I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name right there, and Thao were also charged with aiding and abetting the murder of Floyd. And certainly he should not have knelt on his neck if any of this was real. I just don't know anymore. There's plenty of evidence to suggest that it might not have been, but he was very, very high on fentanyl, and it was a fatal dose, apparently. Spectator reports these charges were based on the autopsy performed by the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office and a private re-autopsy performed at the request of the Floyd's family attorney. Based on those procedures, the medical examiner issued a revised autopsy report stating that Floyd had died of cardiopulmonary arrest, complicating law enforcement dual restraint and neck compression. In short, Floyd's death was allegedly caused by the manner in which the police had restrained him. But the police defendants were charged before the medical examiner had received the report of the toxicology screen by NMS Labs of Horsham, Pennsylvania. Then on May 31st, 2020, NMS Labs forwarded the toxicology report to the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's office. The medical examiner makes the conclusion of an overdose death on the basis of blood samples collected from George Floyd at the Minneapolis hospital. Dr. Baker reveals that Floyd's blood tested positive for the presence of 4-ANPP, methamphetamine, fentanyl, and norfentanyl. He described the levels of fentanyl found in George Floyd's bloodstream as a fatal level under normal circumstances. And as we know, it wasn't normal circumstances, his arrest. At 7:30 on May 31st, 2020, prosecutors met online with Dr. Andrew Baker, Chief Medical Examiner of Hennepin County, to discuss Floyd's toxicology report. June 1st, 2020, memorandum by Assistant County Attorney Amy Sweezy was finally released on August 25th, 2020. Why did the prosecution wait 3 months to release this memorandum? Yes, why indeed? So, says on May 31st, 2020 at 7:30 p.m., Assistant Hennepin County Attorney Patrick Lofton and I met with Dr. Andrew Baker on Microsoft Teams. All three of us were in different locations. Dr. Baker said he had recently received the final toxicology results from George Floyd's samples, which were analyzed by NMS Labs. AB shared his screen and showed us the results. He said that where it says hospital blood, those samples are from Mr. Floyd's hospital admission and were not acquired at autopsy. AB said these samples are better for determining actual blood toxicity than samples taken at autopsy. Samples taken at autopsy may have undergone post-mortem distribution. AB walked down the list of substances for which NMS Lab tested. Those values he highlighted were, let's move down a little bit here, 4-ANPP, a precursor and metabolite of fentanyl, present. Methamphetamine, 19 ng per mil, which I'm not sure of that amount, but which he described as very near the low end, and a stimulant hard on the heart. Fentanyl 11, he said, that's pretty high. This level of fentanyl can cause pulmonary edema. Mr. Floyd's lungs were 2 to 3 times their normal weight at autopsy. This is a fatal level of fentanyl under normal circumstances. Norfentanyl 5.6 is a metabolite of fentanyl. His urine was tested for 4 things and are redundant given the blood analysis. AB said the only thing that matters is what's in his blood. So, there you go. Now, AB said that if Mr. Floyd had been found dead in his home or anywhere else and there were no other contributing factors, he would conclude that it was an overdose death. So there they were, staring at the just received and damning toxicology report that blew to smithereens the whole prosecution theory that the police had killed Floyd. To their undoubted dismay, Dr. Baker, the chief medical examiner, had to concede that at 11 ng per mil, Floyd had a fatal level of fentanyl under normal circumstances. He also concluded that the fentanyl overdose can cause pulmonary edema, a frothy fluid buildup in the lungs that was evidenced by the finding at autopsy that Floyd's lungs weighed 2 to 3 times their normal weight. This is consistent with Officer K's, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, observation at the scene that Floyd was foaming at the mouth, and as found at autopsy that his lungs were diffusely congested and edematous. In other words, like a drowned man, his lungs were filled with fluid, and that was the obvious and inescapable reason why he kept shouting over and over again that he couldn't breathe, even when he was upright and mobile. The memorandum ends with Dr. Baker's devastating conclusion that if Floyd had been found dead in his home or elsewhere, there would have been no contributing factors. he, Dr. Baker, would conclude that it was an overdose death. Translation, the toxicology report drives a stake through the heart of our murder case. How do we justify criminally charging these police officers and explain away our colossal screw-up? Now, I'm not so sure that the police officers shouldn't be charged. I don't know. Yeah, it's certainly not what they're selling us. The truth is not what they've been selling us at all. And that's usually the case, isn't it? So let's go on here. And yes, let's look at this. And let's just call this him BG. Because I'm afraid that this might get me banned as well. Scrubbed from the internet, history of BG Foundation sterilizing hundreds of thousands of young girls in India with HPV vaccine. That's a human papilloma virus. In this explosive interview, independent journalist Ben Swan interviews filmmaker Mickey Willis, who just recently released Pandemic 2. Mickey Willis, in his research for producing Plandemic, looked into the scandal in years past that occurred in India with the BG Foundation and other groups that they funded in developing and testing the HPV vaccine, which resulted in up to 500,000 young girls in India becoming sterile. Why has that not been splashed across the news worldwide? Why? I guess it's all who you are, isn't it? Mr. Willis revealed that he began investigating the issue about 10 years ago, just prior to the birth of his first child, to better understand the history of vaccines. Now imagine if you're one of these young girls, and many young girls grow up, they hope to get married, they hope to have children someday, and that dream of having children has been ripped from them. He was shocked to find out that many of the videos documenting this scandal in India have been scrubbed from the internet. No, really? You don't say. Can't imagine why. Forcing him to go directly to sources in India to interview about what really happened, or what actually happened. Health Impact News has been publishing the crimes of BG and the HPV scandal for several years as well. Here are some previous articles we've done in the past about this scandal in India, as well as other crimes committed against the children of India, which involve more than just the HPV vaccine. So, yeah, this would be a great place to read up on everything that, BG has been involved in. Lots and lots and lots. And it says after the Gardasil HPV scandal, according to Mr. Willis, India kicked BG and all of the organizations tied to him for vaccine research and development out of India. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. But today, they are apparently back in India testing COVID vaccines on the unsuspecting poor people. Right. Doesn't surprise me at all because, they view these people as expendable. Right. Black lives don't matter to them. Brown lives don't matter much either. And white lives, no, not much better. So, Italian member of parliament demands arrest of BG as a vaccine criminal for pursuing crimes against humanity. So, and it says, we've published hundreds of stories about Gardasil over the past few years, and not just personal stories of the vaccine's effects, but also articles uncovering the corruption that allowed this vaccine to come to market, and published scientific studies all outside the U.S. showing how dangerous it is. So let me, this is humansarefree.com. Humansarefree.com, and you can find this under Big Pharma. So, all right, let's move on. That shouldn't surprise us, but it seems like I'm continually running across more things that BG is involved in. Not good things, any of them. And this from Nellie Stirs, and I know she is a listener. Or used to be at least. I guess she's still a listener. I was beginning to see all Dems as hateful and violent. Tonight, Dems called into C-SPAN. They are sick of the violence and hatred, especially all of the hate and dirty tricks they have pulled on Trump. I am more hopeful than I have been in years. There are normal Dems. Who knew? I think there's a lot of normal Dems, and I think they are the ones that are walking away. The normal Dems are the ones walking away. All right, and this from Praying Medic. I found this interesting, of course. 17 is the letter Q in the alphabet. 17 flags on the left and 17 flags on the right. And Praying Medic says, message received. Indeed. So I thought that was interesting. And let's look at this. Now, MSNBC, this is a quote. It would be delightful if agents stormed in and arrested Trump. Well, doesn't he have had to do something wrong to be arrested? I mean, that's how I thought it worked. I was always under that impression. Anyway, let's see. It says, every lib's wet dream come true. And let's look at this. Oh. Well, I can't watch it on there, so let me see if I can watch it on here. I don't know. Let's see.
Benefit themselves, completely throwing all those rules out of the window.
Okay, and just for kicks and giggles, and because we know if the shoe were on the other foot, Republicans would be all over the airwaves talking about the laws that were broken. Let's go through them, John Howman. Rebecca Ballhaus reporting on a White House statement. White House actually engaging on questions of the illegality of the naturalization ceremony. Rebecca tweeted this. The White House official says the naturalization ceremony and the convention program tonight didn't violate the Hatch Act because the White House, quote, publicized the content of the event on a public website this afternoon. The campaign decided to use the publicly available content for campaign purposes. I bet a daily delivery of donuts that the campaign Googled the Hatch Act and said, you got to put it on a website before we can put it in tonight's program, and not the other way around, John Howman.
So?
Oh, I'm certain that's true, Nicole. And you know, look, I mean, the thing about this convention, and despite my unfortunate view that none of this may matter, and I want to be clear, I agree with Steve. Obviously, in principle, it all matters, and we should all be at the level of the disgrace that this thing is. It should be called out, it should be condemned, and Democrats should do everything in their power to try to hold to account the president and his political team and the White House to the extent that they violated laws or ethical.
If laws were broken, shouldn't...
Well, because they're in control of the House of Representatives, Nicole. Well, I think they should, although I do think that in general that the legislators, I mean, look, I think it's unlikely in this corrupted administration that we're going to suddenly see the FBI come storming in and arresting people under the Hatch Act, although it would be delightful if it happened. I do think Democrats are the ones with oversight over this because they control the House of Representatives and are more likely to make an issue of it. So I'm all for it, right?
So there you go. That was in context, the remarks, and I think these people are disgusting. I mean, you saw the DNC convention. Well, I didn't see it all because, let me tell you, I just couldn't stomach it. It was absolutely the most low budget, low energy, just, it was dark, even physically dark. Everything was just, anyway, so these people have nothing better to do than discuss how he might have broken the law, which of course he didn't. But that doesn't seem to matter to them. They just need something to discuss, and it must be something bad about the Orange Man. And by the way, I just want to add, they are the ones that make him orange. He is not that color. And, you know, anyone that, you know, well, any graphic artist would know that those pictures are being toyed with. I mean, it's obvious. When the other colors are saturated as well, you know they have increased the saturation to make him orange. They do that. That's what they do. So anyway, so not only is Orange Man not bad, but Orange Man isn't even orange. I'm just putting that out there. All right, let me look at this. This is absolutely disgusting. disgusting, disgusting, because it's obvious from the everything that was taken that night. It's obvious that it was self-defense. 17-year-old charged with murder for defending himself against Kenosha rioters. Maybe there's a lot more to this story that I don't know, but I cannot figure out why police arrested this kid. 17-year-old was arrested and charged with first-degree murder for defending himself against violent rioters in Kenosha, Wisconsin last night. The kid was open carrying a rifle, and for some reason a group of thugs attacked him. He fought back and apparently killed two really stupid people, injuring a third. Don't bring stupidity to a gunfight. Duh. This starts out when a man threw something flaming at 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse and then cornered him between some cars. Rittenhouse opened fired and shot the man in the head. Pay attention to the guy with no shirt because he stars in the next video as well. And let's come down here. Another angle of the shooting, and moments after, can see Richie McGinnis and others on scene giving aid. He was right next to the victim when the shooting happened. Now, I don't want to play this because it may show the shot in the head, and I just don't want to participate in showing that. In this video, you can see Rittenhouse being chased down by the street by grown-ass adults. They're not just grown, they're not just adults, they're grown-ass adults, apparently. Warning, graphic and violent, and again, I'm just not into playing really violent stuff. I mean, I don't know, not when it's a shot in the head. Anyway, a crowd chases a suspected shooter down in Kenosha. He trips and falls, then turns with the gun and fires several times. Shots can be heard fired elsewhere as well, corroborating reports of multiple shooters tonight. And at one point, Rittenhouse is punched in the back of the head by the shirtless guy from the first video. Rittenhouse then trips, falling to the ground. One rider delivers a flying kick to the teenager, and then several people try to take his gun. That's when the shooting starts again. Amazing. Even after Rittenhouse fired several rounds, one seriously dumb rider still tried to grab his gun. It looks like the rider was shot in the face at point-blank range. There were several more shots, and reportedly there were other shooters in the area. Rittenhouse then ran toward the police, who seriously had no interest in him. It looked like he tried to tell them he was attacked and had to defend himself, but they instructed him to move along. Weirdly enough, the police then issued a warrant for Rittenhouse's arrest and nabbed him in his home in Antioch, Illinois, which is about 20 miles away. This kid was charged with first-degree murder. Why? Like I said, maybe there's more to this story, but looking at the videos, Rittenhouse was trying to get away from rioters not threatening them. The rioters attacked him and tried to take his gun, which, if they were successful, would have meant his own death. I don't know the law in Wisconsin, but I'm assuming he had a right to defend his own life at that point. This isn't even a stand your ground kind of thing, because he was, in fact, retreating. I've read and seen many different conflicting reports about this incident, but it does appear as if Rittenhouse was part of a group of armed citizens who were trying to protect local businesses from being torched and looted by these violent scumbags. If the rioters have a First Amendment right to destroy private property like the Democrats claim, then surely others have a Second Amendment right to protect private property as well as their own lives. Then there's this. Here's a wounded protester. Notice what he has in his right hand. Well, looks like a gun to me. And that is one of the guys that this guy shot. So, yeah, I would say self-defense. I think that actually, that might actually be the guy who looked like he got shot in the face. Apparently it was his arm. You know, that arm with a handgun in it. These peaceful protesters were trying to kill a 17-year-old kid. Again, why is he the one charged with a crime? I suppose the most logical explanation is that Kyle Rittenhouse is white and not on the side of the violent rioters. Yeah, that would make all the difference in the world, wouldn't it? But yeah, I've seen the videos, and yeah, it's kind of, I mean, you're welcome. You could probably look them up on YouTube, and you'll probably see it from every single angle you ever wanted to see it from. So there you go. But I personally believe, from what I've seen, that it was self-defense, and clearly self-defense. All right, let's go on now. And this from James Wood: Obama sells pallets of cash. Trump destroyed ISIS and wiped their leadership from the face of the earth. Yeah, pretty clear decision on who to vote for, I would think. And this is another by Derek Gradinigo. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Probably not. Let's just be honest. Am I tripping here? Am I the only person who feels like the stage settings and video montages at the RNC look like they were designed by billion-dollar movie studios, while the DNC looked like it was edited by the head rat at the local Chuck E. Cheese? Well, it looked that way to me too. So, he's just speaking the truth there. And the RNC, my gosh, it looks like a grade schooler edited it. Well, it did. Okay. And let me see. Let's go on to this. Stonewall Jackson says, kill a 5-year-old white boy. No one blinks an eye. Shoot a career violent criminal after he fought cops and was grabbing for a gun. The NBA cancels games in mourning. Yeah, isn't that special? And this, now, I'm sorry, I did find this a little bit amusing, and I noticed this as well in CNN. Boy, they can't get any more fake than they already are. Look at this. This reporter is standing in front of the burning car dealership that they smashed the cars and set on fire. So behind him is just this blaze of fire. And what does the headline say? Fiery, but mostly peaceful. You don't say. After police shooting. Fiery, but mostly peaceful. Yeah, those two things are kind of incongruous, don't you think? Diametrically opposed, maybe? Yeah, because if you're torching things, setting them on fire, that's not peaceful. Anyway, James Wood said, CNN doesn't aggravate me anymore. They have become so ridiculous. I now seek out screen grabs of chyons like this one for a morning laugh. And he's not the only one. Okay. Now, let me see. Let's look at this. Rachel Campos Duffy, after seeing real Americans lead one of the best conventions of my lifetime, we can officially declare the end of the celebrity political surrogate era. Hollywood celebs are out of touch and unrelatable and boring. American workers are the true stars and heroes of our national story. I could not agree more. And let's look at this. I thought this was kind of interesting. It's Canadian, but you Americans will enjoy this. Maybe not. All right. Like an aircraft without wings traveling in high-speed pods could be the way of the future in Alberta as government backs development of Hyperloop. Wow. Now, this is from a few days ago, but, it's quite interesting. I mean, it's very interesting. Albertans could be among the first Canadians to travel by high-speed pods between cities after the government of Alberta signed an agreement with Canadian transportation tech company TransPod to develop and test a high-speed Hyperloop between Edmonton and Calgary. Though no financial commitments have been made by the government, Alberta will support Toronto-based TransPods by sharing data, identifying land, and participating in discussions with potential investors, according to the news release. This project involves a short-term feasibility study ending in 2022, researchers and development ending in 2024, test track construction and use between 2024 and 27, and the construction of a line between downtown Edmonton and downtown Calgary to begin in 2025. I wonder how long it will take for this to be the way of the future. Well, it would be actually a good idea. It would cut down on so many cars and so forth and be a very, very quick way to travel. Can't remember how fast they say it goes, but it's like unbelievably fast. There are a handful of companies developing this technology, which allows pods to travel at high speed in a low pressure tube, with various projects in the early stages around the world. This could be the first such project in Canada. The Transpod's vehicles would travel up to 1,000 kilometers per hour. Well, that is what, around 600 and some miles per hour, said the company's co-founder and CEO, Sebastian Genron, with an average speed of between 400 and 600 kilometers per hour. That's fast. Alberta's Hyperloop line would stop at the Edmonton and Calgary airports, as well as Red Deer, he said, and the total moving time of the full line would be a half hour. It's currently almost a 300 kilometer drive between the two cities, according to Google Maps. Wow, that would be incredible, because you could live in one city and work in the next. Half an hour, that's like fast. So anyway, I'm not going to read more of that. Why? Because I don't want to. That's a good reason. I mean, it's as good as you're going to get. All right, let's go back here and see what else we've missed in our daily trek through the news. I think this is weather related, so I don't think that is. We need to look at that. And let's come down here and see if we've missed anything else that's nummy. Yes, I said nummy. All right, let's look at this. I don't remember what this is, but it might be something good. Or it might not be. Well, this was the hurricane. This I should have brought to you before now. And that's quite evident. So let's yeah, let's look at this. Disgraced activist Shaun King begins publicly naming officers from Kenosha Police Department. What could go wrong? This guy is a piece of work, really. Leftist activist Shaun King wants the officers involved in the shooting of Jacob Blake to be publicly named, even as riders take to the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin, in violence that has turned deadly. King gave the department an ultimatum Tuesday on Twitter. Who does he think he is? Seriously. Like, he's got a very overinflated opinion of himself. I mean, I think he thinks he matters or something. And, of course, he doesn't. To the Kenosha Police Department, if you do not name the officer who brutally shot Jacob Blake on Sunday, we will simply begin naming officers from your department who may or may not be him. F it. Your protection of his identity is unethical. What's his name? He said. The department has not publicly identified the two officers who were involved in the incident, but has said that they will be placed on administrative leave. King started throwing names around and included a post in which one officer is supposedly in protective custody in a hotel because people thought he shot Jacob Blake. Police could end this right now. They are deliberately protecting the man who shot Jacob. What's his name? He posted images and names of officers on Twitter without any confirmation from police that the officers were involved in the Sunday incident in which Blake, 29, was shot after a scuffle with police. The shooting, which was captured on video, became the trigger for 3 nights of rioting. 2 people were killed and 1 was wounded in the violence overnight Tuesday. King's actions were criticized by many on Twitter, and, well, they should be. To start naming officers who were not involved in the incident is simply irresponsible. That is my cat, not yours. I know when my cat does that, everybody that has a cat thinks, that's my cat. It's not. It's Sammy. Now, what Sammy wants, I don't know, because he's been fed, he's got water, he's got treats, and he's got plenty of love. All right, so to start naming officers who are not involved in the incident is simply irresponsible. We all want answers, but do it the right way by continuing the pressure on the administration. And Aaron Kaufman says, your protection of his identity is unethical, but all the officers you plan on naming so they get harassed by mobs, that is ethical? And this one, this tweet violates terms of service and has been reported. And well, it should. King had earlier tweeted that he would not call for peace as rioting broke out in Kenosha. "We've tried peace for years. Y'all don't understand that language," he said. "We are calling for the complete dismantling of American policing. It's not broken. It was built to work this way, and mayhem is the consequence. You earned it." Wow. He doesn't even have 2 neurons to rub together in his brain. Probably has the IQ of a small 2-celled amoeba. Maybe 1 cell, I'm not sure. Anyway, this is Sean King. "Nah, I'm not going to call for peace. We've tried peace for years. Y'all don't understand that language." So, yeah, he's just being the thug that he is. The shooting is being investigated by Kenosha County District Attorney Michael Gravely, as well as the Wisconsin Justice Department's Division of Criminal Investigation, according to CNN. And who watches them? No one. "We're asked to make 2 determinations," Gravely said. 1, did any officer in this case commit any crimes? And 2, are there any crimes that we believe were committed that we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt? The Justice Department is investigating possible civil rights violations in connection with the shooting, CNN reported, and again, who watches them? No one. Citing sources it did not name. On Tuesday, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reported that the initial dispatcher who sent police to the location where Blake was shot told the officers that he isn't supposed to be there, and he took the complainant's keys and is refusing to give them back. The dispatcher later reported, just as police arrived on the scene, that the woman who initially phoned in the complaint was not being cooperative. Police were also alerted that a warrant had been issued for a person at that address, to which they were responding. On July 6, Blake had been charged by Kenosha County prosecutors with sexual assault, trespassing, and disorderly conduct, and an arrest warrant for him had been issued, the Daily Mail reported. King was dismissed by Black Lives Matter figurehead DeRay McKesson in a Medium article last September, accusing him of fraud and deception. Well, yeah, Sean King, definitely. Better known as Martha Luther Cream, Talcum X, Harriet Conman, etc., needs to keep Jacob Blake's name out of his fraudulent mouth. He should not be allowed to speak for the Black community, ever. And he shouldn't. He isn't even Black. We never aim to replicate the power dynamic of the system we are up against, a system that embraces a devious lack of transparency, willingly sacrifices the vulnerable to protect itself, and replaces truth with convenient lies, McKesson wrote. Yet Sean King has done just that. All right. There you have it. And let's come back and see if there's anything. Well, yes, there is. Let's look at this. Now, this is a couple days old now, but in case you haven't seen it, it's, well, I don't know. I was going to say, well, it's worth seeing, but I don't know about that. Cardi B suggests Melania Trump was a prostitute. Didn't she used to sell that P-U-S-S-Y? That's Cardi B. She's a real class act. And look at that tongue. It's just coated with slime. Or, now what? Yellow. It's yellow gunk. She needs to brush her tongue. Someone needs to tell her that. She needs to brush her tongue. Leftist rapper and Joe Biden campaign cheerleader Cardi B has implied that First Lady Melania Trump once worked as a prostitute, saying in a vulgar tweet, "Didn't she used to sell that WAP," which stands for wet ass. P-U-S-S-Y. You didn't hear that from me. Cardi B made the suggestion in response to a tweet from Deanna Lorraine, a Republican and former congressional candidate. America needs far more women like Melania Trump and far less like Cardi B, Lorraine tweeted late Tuesday during the Republican National Convention. In response, Cardi B implied that the First Lady used to sell her WAP, an acronym for, well, we know it's an acronym for, and a reference to the rapper's new hit single of the same name. She is disgusting. And so Cardi B also tweeted a topless photo of Melania Trump taken for a French magazine when she was 25-year-old model. This pic gives me a you effing wit some WAP vibes, just saying, the rapper tweeted. She can't even speak English. Really, she can't. All right. Cardi B recently conducted an interview with Joe Biden for Elle magazine in which she asked for free college and health insurance for everyone. Biden said that if he wins the election in November, he would implement these giveaways and pay for them through taxes. Wow, isn't that special? The rapper was a supporter of Bernie Sanders, but shifted her allegiance to Joe Biden after the Vermont senator dropped out of the presidential race. Melania Trump settled defamation lawsuits against the Daily Mail in 2017 after the tabloid ran a story speculating whether she worked as an escort before meeting President Trump. The First Lady also sued Maryland-based author Webster G. Tarpley for libeling her when he called her a prostitute. Yes, she has never sold herself. The lawsuit was also settled for an undisclosed sum. So obviously she didn't, because they said she did, and she sued them and won. So there you go. Yeah, Cardi B. Oh my gosh. I mean, really, would you want, if you were a politician, would you want to be represented by her? Like, really? I'd be like, no, please represent anyone but me, please. Alrighty. Now, let me see. Yeah, I thought this was interesting. And you know what? I thought it was very interesting. Well, I did. BBC foreknowledge of 9/11 collapse of World Trade Center Building 7. British man won lawsuit against BBC for 9/11 cover-up. Now this is from, it's 2 days ago, but I've never heard this before. And maybe it's because it's fairly recent, but my gosh, I think we all know about that because BBC was reporting and they were saying that the World Trade Center had fallen, the World Trade Building 7 had fallen, but it was still standing as they were reporting it. And here is a little screenshot here of that. This article was first posted on Global Research in March 2015. It is of crucial significance. It proves that the collapse of the World Trade Center Building 7 was a terrorist act. Both CNN and BBC had foreknowledge of the collapse. A class action lawsuit against the BBC should be contemplated. The BBC had foreknowledge of a criminal act and failed to inform the public. Well, apparently somebody did bring a lawsuit and they won. He won, this British man. Horsham, UK, 2013, Tony Rook, in an act of civil disobedience, refused to pay the mandatory £130 TV license fee, claiming it violates Section 15 of the Terrorism Act. Rook's accusation was aimed at the BBC, who reported the collapse of World Trade Center 7 over 20 minutes before it actually fell, and the judge accepted Rook's argument. While it was not a public inquiry into 9/11, the recognition of the BBC's actions on September 11th are considered a small victory, one that was never reported in the U.S. I can't imagine why. Can you? Today was a historic day for the 9/11 Truth movement. Peter Drew of AE 9/11 Truth UK told Digital Journal, with over 100 members of the public attending, including numerous journalists from around the UK as well as others from across other parts of Europe. I'm a little afraid to get into this much because, well, they would rip this video down in a second. But if you go to globalresearch.ca, and I do have a great deal of respect for this website, I have never found them to be wrong thus far. Not saying that they can't be or won't be in the future, but thus far I haven't found them to be wrong. So if you go there, you will be able to find this article, and it has a lot of different things that you can click on and you can see exactly what happened. All right. Now, let me see here. Let's go back here, see what else we can get into. I don't know what this is about, but I remember thinking it was interesting. Yes. Attack of the tomato killers. That's right. The police states war on weed and backyard gardens. They came again this morning at about 8 o'clock. A large cargo-type helicopter flew low over the cabin, shaking it on its very foundations. It shook all of us inside, too. I feel frightened. I see how helpless and tormented I am becoming with disgust and disillusionment with the government, which has turned this beautiful country into a police state. I feel like I'm in the middle of a war zone. That's a journal entry from a California resident describing the government's aerial searches for marijuana plants. Now, let me see here. Backyard gardeners beware. Tomato plants have become collateral damage in the government's war on drugs, especially marijuana. In fact, merely growing a vegetable garden on your own property or in a greenhouse on your property or shopping at a gardening store for gardening supplies, incredibly enough, could set you up for a drug raid sanctioned by the courts. It's happened before. After shopping for hydroponic tomatoes at their local gardening store, a Kansas family found themselves subjected to a SWAT team raid as part of a multi-state annual campaign dubbed Operation Constant Gardener, in which police collected the license plates of hundreds of customers at the gardening store and then investigated them for possible marijuana possession. By investigated, I mean that police searched through the family's trash. You can thank the Supreme Court and their 1978 ruling in California versus Greenwood for allowing police to invade your trash can, finding wet glob vegetation in the garbage. The cops somehow managed to convince themselves and a judge that it was marijuana. In fact, it was a loose leaf tea, but those pesky details don't usually bother the cops when they're conducting field tests. Indeed, field tests routinely read positive for illegal drugs, even when no drugs are present. According to investigative journalist Radley Balco, it's almost as if these tests come up positive whenever the police need them to. A partial list of substances that the tests have mistaken for illegal drugs would include sage, chocolate chip cookies, motor oil, spearmint, soap, tortilla dough, deodorant, billiards chalk, I can never pronounce that, but you know what it is, flour, eucalyptus, breath mints, Jolly Ranchers, and vitamins. There's a long list of innocent ingredients that could be mistaken for drugs and get you subjected to a raid because that's all it takes. Just the barest whiff of a suspicion by police that you might be engaged in criminal activity to start the ball rolling. From there, these so-called investigations follow the usual script. Judge issues a warrant for a SWAT raid based on botched data. Cops raid the home and terrorize the family at gunpoint. Cops find no drugs. Family sues over a violation of their Fourth Amendment rights. And then the courts protect the cops and their botched raid on the basis of qualified immunity. Yeah, that's how it works. It happens all the time. As Balco reports, police have broken down doors, screamed obscenities, and held innocent people at gunpoint, only to discover what they thought were marijuana plants were really sunflowers, hibiscus, ragweed, tomatoes, or elderberry bushes. It happened with all five. Surely, you might think the government has enough on its hands right now, policing a novel coronavirus pandemic, instituting nationwide lockdowns, quelling civil unrest over police brutality, that it doesn't need to waste time and resources ferreting out pot farmers. You'd be wrong. This is a government that excels at make-work projects in which it assigns at times unnecessary jobs to government agents to keep them busy or employed. In this case, however, the make-work principle, translation, making work to keep the police state busy at taxpayer expense, is being used to justify sending police and expensive military helicopters, likely equipped with sophisticated surveillance and thermal imaging devices, on exploratory sorties every summer, again at taxpayer expense, in order to uncover illegal marijuana growing operations. Often, however, when these air and ground searches end up targeting our backyard gardeners growing tomato plants. How dare they? Just recently, in fact, Eyewitness in Virginia reported low-flying black helicopters buzzing over rural and suburban neighborhoods as part of a multi-agency operation to search for marijuana growers. Oftentimes, these joint operations involve local police, state police, and the Army National Guard. One woman reported having her tomato plants complemented by the 7 cops that pulled up in my yard in unmarked SUVs after a helicopter hovered over our house for 20 minutes this morning. Another man reported a similar experience from a few years ago when police showed up in an unmarked SUV with guns drawn. Then the cops on the ground argued with the helicopter because the heat signature in the copter didn't match what was growing. Gee, Back in 2013, an aerial surveillance mission spotted what police thought might be marijuana plants. 2 days later, dozens of city officials, SWAT team, police officers, and code compliance employees, and numerous official vehicles, including dozens of police cars and several specialized vehicular equipment, including helicopters and unmanned flying drones, descended on the Garden of Eden, a 3.5-acre farm in Arlington, Texas, for a 10-hour raid in search of marijuana that turned up nothing more than tomato, blackberry, and okra plants. These aerial and ground sweeps have become regular occurrences across the country, part of the government's multi-million-dollar domestic cannabis eradication program. Local cops refer to the annual military maneuvers as Eradication Day. Started in 1979 as a way to fund local efforts to crack down on marijuana growers in California and Hawaii, the eradication program went national in 1985, right around the time the Reagan administration enabled the armed forces to get more involved in the domestic war on drugs. So anyway, I'm not going to read more of this because it's a long article, but don't you think that the government could make better use of its time, really? Yeah, and I don't want to have to mention that cannabis has numerous health benefits. And the leaves are good in salad. And no, they don't make you high. So, and the oil is very, very good for people with arthritis and whatnot. So anyway, I am not one of these people that is, against, because I do believe it has medicinal value. All right, and especially for people that are dealing with chronic pain or seizures, all sorts of things, it benefits. So, all right, that's enough of that. And I think maybe I should call it a night because, well, it is a night. And yeah, I think that I'm going to leave the rest for tomorrow. Yeah, I wanted to read this as well. This by Ryan Fournier, and it actually hurts me when I see the way they treat Melania, because she is the most graceful and elegant First Lady I think we've ever had. She's beautiful. She's very well educated. She speaks 5 languages. She's not stupid. And she is always impeccably dressed and well presented. And when, you have people like that, like the president and first lady representing America, I think that's important that she is impeccably, presented. Well, she just dresses impeccably, and she's always presents herself very, very well. But anyway, this from Ryan Fournier. After Melania's speech, Bette Midler said she still can't speak English. Author Tommy Ahonen called her a hooker and a tramp. And former Dem Coalition Chair John Cooper made fun of her appearance. This is disgusting. Now, I can't imagine how anyone could find anything with Melania's appearance to even criticize. The woman is flawless. She's flawless. Anyway, that is enough of that. I think I'm going to end it there for tonight. And I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I hope you sleep well and stay safe. And please keep seeking the truth. And I would be really happy if you sought the truth with this channel. We like to have you. All right, guys. If you like the content, continue supporting us and like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you want to be subscribed, make sure you are still subscribed, because YouTube plays the little game that we all are familiar with, where they just drop, willy-nilly subscribers, and they say, oh, wait a minute, I was subscribed to you, and now I'm not. That's why. All right, well, you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you in the next video. Good night.